If you grew up in the 80s like I did, you might remember the thrill of writing text adventures. Back then, the gold standard was Pause, the professional adventure writing system by Gilsoft. It was a brilliant, menu-driven way to build worlds on what are now vintage machines. But fast forward today, and Pause has a modern successor, DAAD. Now I'm not going to go into the whole history of DAAD here. The incredible people like Uto and Stefan who have done amazing work to recover it and give us a fantastic modern DAAD Ready package. But out of the box, DAAD is a strictly textual process. You're editing long DSF text files, manually typing in room details, locations, objects, process tables. It's a powerful system, but I found myself longing for the way that Pause used to work. Being able to press L, go into locations, add your text for that location, come back out to the main menu, and then you could add your connections to that location without having to scroll up and down a text file. You could then go to O, add in objects. You could then come back out, go to your process tables, link all the bits together. And then you even had the option in there to play test your adventure to see how it was going while you were building it, to see what was wrong, where you had to go back and make changes or edit your text messages for rooms. At the same time as discovering DAAD Ready, I was also experimenting with a tool called Trizboard, and I love the visual aspect of being able to drop rooms onto the map, drag connections between them, and I thought, why not combine the best of both of those worlds? A way of working a bit like Pause, but also with a more visual way of working like Trizboard. And that's why I created DAAD Builder. Let's have a look at what DAAD Builder can do straight out of the box. When you start, it will start with the default template that comes with DAAD Ready. If you wish to create your own adventure, you can click on New, give your project a name, and then choose from one of the 5 language files, which are the default templates that come with DAAD Ready, and then click Create. You'll be in the visual editor. Straight away you have the rooms which are in the DAAD Ready template. You have your initial location, which is your introduction to the game, and then you have room 1 and room 2. There's already a connection between those two. To add more rooms, you change into the room creation mode, and you can drop rooms onto the map. Let's add a couple of rooms onto the map. To edit those rooms, you need to go back onto the edit mode by clicking on the cursor. Just like Trizboard, you'll have little dots around the circumference of your room, which you can then use to add connectors to other rooms. So if we click on here, we can then drag a connector out. As you hover over the connectors on the neighbouring rooms, you'll see they turn green. You can then drop your connector onto there. On the right hand side of the room, you have things you can do with your connector. You can make it one way. If it's one way, you can reverse which direction it goes, and you can change the text for that, whether it's an in or an out or an up or a down. Let's connect up one more room. So we have our 4 rooms here in the visual editor. We won't go into the other things you can do in the visual editor at the moment. We'll cover that more in a later video. Next you have the text editor. This is more the way you'd be working with DAAD Ready in Visual Code or any other type of text editor. But if we scroll down now, we should be able to see the rooms that we just created. Here are our initial ones from the database, but now we have room 3 and room 4 that we've added in, and the connections that we joined up are here straight away in the connections table. We have many other editors as well. We have an objects editor where we can add objects to the existing rooms just by clicking on the plus sign by the side of the room name, and then we can add an object. We can type in the vocabulary that we would use, the noun and the adjective for that object, and that will add those words into our vocabulary database. We have a way to edit our rooms as well. We have our vocabulary database, which gives us all the words in the game. We can sort that by our verbs, our nouns, our pronouns, etc. We have a defines editor, which we won't go into at the moment, but we will look at in later videos. A message editor for our system messages and our user messages. And then we have the process editor. It's where the real mechanics of the game take place. Usually you'll be working in process 5. In the column here we have all of the entries which come directly from the template from DAAD Ready. If we want to add a new entry, we can either click a plus button at the top, which will add an entry to the bottom of the list of processes. If we want to add it in a specific location, we can hover just above or below an existing entry in the process table, and we can click the plus button. That will now add us a new entry directly below that existing one. We can choose the verbs and the nouns for this process from the list which is already in the game, or the ones which we have added into the game. So let's say we want to add take, and we know there's a torch because that comes in the default template. So let's take torch. Then we can add extra contacts to this entry. Here we can say at, so if we're at, and we have our list of rooms, if we're at room 4, we can also choose the other locations which are built in, such as carried, worn, or an object that hasn't been, a place that hasn't been created yet. So we're at room 4, we want to take torch. Let's give a message. We have some shortcuts on the bottom here for regularly used contacts. Click message, and if we click the green plus button, we can create a message all in one go. So let's say you have the torch, and create and use, and we'll just end this entry by saying done. If we now go back to the text editor and we jump all the way through to process 5 and we scroll down, we should see here take torch at location 4, message 0, which is the message we just created, and done. We also have a music editor. This is a very basic MML editor. It comes with a sample piece of music built in. If you click on the notes, it will highlight where that note appears in the string of the MML. I say very basic, it will be expanded later on. And then finally we have the test adventure. This is where you can have a look at what you've written so far, just check it works, check the connections work the way you expect them to, picking up objects, solving puzzles, all of it's working as you wanted it to. It starts us off in the default template at location number 1 with a road leading north. Along the bottom are some very quick buttons for being able to move the location, so let's click north to go north. We're now in location number 1 and a road heads south. Let's go back south. We'll see at the top there are locations which are the connections to this room. We have an east up here which isn't mentioned in the text because it's one we added right at the beginning in the visual editor. If we press east, it'll take us to our room 4. Let's try take a torch. And it says we already have object 0 because stupid me, that's already covered within the game default, being able to take the torch. We also have a debug window. Here we can see our list of rooms, we can see which room we're currently in, we can see a list of objects that are in that room should we have dropped anything or there's an object lying in that room. We can check the objects in the game, we can see what location they're at, we can look at their attributes. And we also have flags, so we can keep an eye on what location the player's in, what the max carrying weight is, etc, etc. There's a lot more to cover. So in this video series we're going to build a game together. We're going to be following Uto's official online tutorial, a DAAD Ready tutorial for beginners. It's about 5 pages long, and in each upcoming video we'll tackle one page art tutorial and show you how we build it using DAAD Builder. You can see firsthand how some of the features will be able to speed up the development process, such as being able to add an object in a room and straight away being able to add the noun and the adjective for that object into the vocabulary database without having to scroll up and down your DSF file to find out where those should be located. To be fair, if you're already a veteran at editing DSF files, you might still find a pure text editor faster, more comfortable for you. But if you're new to DAAD or editing ventures in a pause style, or if you share that nostalgic longing that I have for the old pause way of working, DAAD Builder might be a good alternative to try. So thanks for watching so far. Next video we'll dive into page 1 of Uto's tutorial and we'll start building. See you in the next video.